you made an observation about the detail in that the subject line is really putting your best foot forward. And I'll admit that I don't put nearly enough time into that subject line.
Because
So
how many emails do you get where it's and now I've already stopped reading.
Recolon.
Oh, hey, new sponsor.
Recolon. Well, here we are.
We are still here.
At a very, very special episode of The Hot Lou Show.
Why? Because we've bested the hybrid camel people?
No, but it's funny that you bring up best because as we're sitting here, actually without any topics to talk about, we turned to our help that has helped us produce all of these podcasts so far.
Yep, the Crack Research Team.
The Crack Research Team, and asked them to put together a reel of our best of.
Lou, I can't wait to hear the reel.
So, well, if you can't wait, then neither can I, and let's just roll it. Wait a minute, that was it? There's nothing?
That's not the worst thing I've ever heard.
It was kind of soothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I felt at peace for parts of it.
I do notice that I feel like I'm continuously in front of a screen. We talked about that a little bit in the last episode, that even when we're watching TV and in front of a screen, we can't help but put a secondary screen in front of us.
Right. It's been that way for legitimately more than a decade for me. I mean, even before smartphones were really as ubiquitous as they are today, I would have my laptop open while we were watching Sopranos or whatever the heck we were watching back then.
Wow. Yeah, so now it's like just part of your
Now I can't
daily
focus
practice.
on one screen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes going to a movie theater just damned I'm insatiable. Like I can't leave the phone in my pocket.
I mean, I am continuously impressed with our Crack Research Team and their ability to use their iPads and computers and phones and still participate in the show and listen.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed.
It's these millennials.
It's really impressive. It's a skill that I may never have, and I'm only getting worse at it as I continuously am searching for some sort of sanctuary away from these screens. But yeah, I guess we're probably going to have to talk about something on the show, considering the best of was just 7.5 seconds of dead air.
I still thought you were talking too much.
Oh, man. Well, with that, might as well introduce the show, like formally, and the hosts. Welcome to the Hot Lou Show. My name and host of the show is Lou Abramowski, or somewhat introductorily known as Hot Lou.
And I'm Mike Franklin. I'm the sidekick. I am ubiquitously known as Mike Franklin. I'm 40 years old, and I've never had a nickname. Not once.
Well, there was a long period of time where we just called each other by our dad's nicknames.
There was, Bonehead.
That's right, Benji.
You got it.
Although I think Benji was far more flattering. Because, I mean, it was really a derivative that your last name is Franklin.
Right.
And it was from Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, some thought went into this. I mean, at this point, it was in the 60s or something, but some thought went into that.
Yeah. I think my dad's nickname of Bonehead, wasn't
as complimentary?
I don't think there was anything really even endearing about it.
There wasn't a great Polish navigator.
No.
Bonehead Abramowski.
I'm just going to pretend there was a Viking named Bonehead the Great.
Bonehead the Brave.
Bonehead the Brave. We'll get our Crack Research Team on that as well. But in the meantime, to try to fill this episode, I want to mention a buddy of mine named Phil Pogge. He doesn't know that we're talking about him, but maybe by the time this airs, he'll be aware of it.
Hey, if anybody out there is related to or has a contact into Phil Pogge, tell him to turn on his podcast machine right now. I mean, this is live, so tell him to do it.
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind, tell him to rate this podcast 5 stars, because we've been sitting in the low double digits for far too long.
Hey, we have, and I'm just gonna. I'm out of gauntlets, so I can't throw down gauntlets anymore. But if you lunatics,
I didn't realize there was a limit.
Well, I just meant like how many personal gauntlets I have. I mean, if I had a box full of gauntlets, Lou, I'd be throwing them right and left. But I only had 2, one for each mitt.
So it's not timeouts in the NFL.
No,
is what you're saying. You just
no.
had a physical gauntlet limit.
Yeah, well, yeah. I had a my gauntlet budget has been expended on the mission of trying to get the Lunatics to rate this show 5 out of 5 stars.
Well, it strikes me that perhaps what we need is a gauntlet manufacturer to sponsor the show.
Gauntlets are us.
You're out there. I'm sure you are.
If the gauntlet don't fit, you must rate us 5 stars or something. I don't know. Whoever does these voiceovers for commercials, they're just way underpaid. Hey, speaking of which, don't Google Bonehead Viking, especially if you're a lifelong Minnesota sports fan. Because you will just be treated to a trip down memory lane of all the stupid things that the Minnesota Vikings have done.
Oh, gosh.
So, I don't know.
I will say that the moment that Case Keenum threw that pass to Stephon Diggs,
maybe corrected a number of them. Is that where you're going?
Yeah. And I very nearly did this experiment, which it's still possible that I could do it. And maybe we'll hear from a couple listeners on whether I should. But I shared the video clip of it happening the day that it did. And then the next day, I shared it again with the caption that said, if I share this every day for a year, will it show up in my Facebook memories every single year?
What a great social experiment that would be.
All right. Well, 1 year from now, maybe we'll be talking about that exact experiment. But for now, we're going to dedicate this episode to introductions.
Yep.
Yeah, specifically...
Back to Phil Pogge.
Back to Phil Pogge. So some of you that have been the beneficiary of my somewhat colorful introduction emails are already familiar with this, but I wanted to offer up just a piece of casual advice to people to spend a little bit more time putting some thought into their introductions. And I've got a very specific format I use for all of my introductions.
This makes it seem less original, Lou.
Does it?
Well, if you have a format that you use, I mean, I just feel like this was not as paint by numbers as you're setting it up to be.
Okay, well, it isn't exactly a Mad Lib. Okay, so I'm not going to put in the show notes some Mad Lib that you can just put other people's names in.
Hey, Phil, this is Mike. He really likes to go play outside on his butt. And his favorite sandwich is a butt sandwich.
Actually, now that we're talking about this, I have a couple ideas that you should look for on the hotloo.com Facebook page as well as the website. So watch for some fun introductory Mad Lib type emails.
And learn your parts of speech, people.
Yeah. But first, before I kind of get into the style that I use, I wanted to talk about the format specifically. And it's that, I always start with the person's first name, dash, and I'm going to include this in the show notes, of course. I'm going to read one also.
You're going to make it real easy for people to do great introductory emails.
I hope so,
yeah.
Because these have been effective enough that I will almost always get included in the follow-ups, even though I often ask not to be. And but what happens is I will just run into people often, just like with your dad jokes and our sponsor, Dad Jokes Daily. You know, it happens to creep into real life, not just electronic life, where I introduce by the name, followed by the person I'm introducing with their first and last name. I get into some sort of description of who they are, and I try to hit a couple of points on why that person might want to know them. Then I turn to the other person, I give the first name, and then I say meet, and then give the full name. And then after that, I usually give it a reason for why the two people should be meeting. And then at the end of that, I just leave it with, anyway, I'll leave you guys to it, or I'll let you two take it from here. And the specific style that I use is I very, very hyperbolically introduce both parties in the message so that it feels like I put a little bit more thought into why I'm doing the introduction beyond, I think these two people should know each other, because if you're like me, you get 400 emails, and 387 of them don't matter every single day.
Oh my goodness! Somebody, some tech wizard needs to come up with a solution for this, because I have the rare.
Am I blushing?
Yes.
I'm sweating.
Yeah. I have the rare, well, I don't know how rare it is. I have the problem where I can't look at the little red number indicator on my phone and not panic and not freak out. Like, a happy day ends when there are no red indicators on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah. And so if there are unread emails, I have to do something with them. Otherwise, I'm like OCD in that regard.
Wow. So I was once you, and at some point passed some sort of, or I crossed the Rubicon.
Let it go. Let it go.
It was more that it was...
With you, I think it would be more of the Lubicon.
God, we don't do that enough anymore.
You never see it
and
coming.
I never see it coming. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
What day is it?
It's Lose Day.
It's Lose Day. It's my favorite day.
Second only to
Hump Day.
Lose Day is now known as Hump Day Eve.
There's a lot of lunatics out there who are also in love with Hump Day.
Yep.
So what did I do?
A social experiment, Lou?
I created a Facebook page for all of those lunatics who are also Hump Day enthusiasts.
Oh, this is going to be great. If you're a fan of Dromedary, Bactrian, or the offensive hybrid camel, there's really no better Facebook page for you than Every Day is Hump Day.
Particularly if you're just so tired of Thursday
and
Friday and just the long wait every week.
It's the worst. It's the worst thing about Thursday is knowing that I have 7 more days to get back to Hump Day, or 6 to Hump Day Eve.
If you have spent your entire life wasting away those 6 miserable days that aren't Hump Day and you need it improved, we have the answer for you.
Yeah, every day can be Hump Day now.
Check out the Facebook page by searching Every Day is Hump Day on Facebook and like your newest favorite page on Facebook.
These camels are delightful for all members of the family. They're biologically accurate, and one of them appears to be mid-spit.
If you're having difficulty out there identifying which camels are Bactrian and Dromedary, nearly every one of the posts is giving you an opportunity to identify it and comment on which camel it is.
Yep. This is not just about entertainment. It's about inspiration and learning.
So there you go. Improve your life by following Every Day is Hump Day.
Please search that in Facebook, not on Google.
So my second favorite podcast, second only to The Hot Lou Show, is a show called Reply All. And they have a specific holiday called Email Debt Forgiveness Day.
Okay.
Where they talk about that kind of principle.
Sure.
Where if you get so far behind on email sometimes that you don't even want to reply to somebody because...
It seems absurd after like a day and a half.
Those are standards I would never be able to meet. But at that point, what Reply All does is they have this big, long piece of text that you can copy and paste into the footer of your email about it being Email Debt Forgiveness Day, and that's why you're replying to this email 5 months late.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
I need to find this podcast and add it to the list right after the Hot Lou Show.
It really is it's a national treasure that maybe well, we'll just add both of the hosts of that show to our celebrity listeners for now.
It's available at hotlou.com/Luxicon. It's the celebrity listeners that they're piling
growing
up.
list.
Piling up.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a celebrity to listen to this show, but if you aren't, you are required to rate it 5 stars.
Yep, that is the rule. That's just podcast courtesy.
I think it's actually law now. It's been passed into law. So if you're listening now, haven't rated this 5 stars,
I got a guy.
I'm worried for your freedom.
I got a guy.
So with that, I'm going to actually do something we haven't done on the show before, and it's read this entire introductory or intro email.
This is from we got to go back in time here.
Yeah. We're going back to August of 2013, where I wanted Mike and Phil to meet each other.
The halcyon days of 2013.
Yeah, one of the hot mics in this room was introduced to Phil Pogge, and it was the one that's able to actually speak, not just listen. And it started out this way, and hopefully you'll get an idea of kind of the hyperbole and color that I add to the email. But the email reads as follows: Mike, meet Phil Pogge. And his name is spelled a little strangely, so I spelled it out phonetically. And then I go on to say, or write, Phil is my super agent. I can ask him just about anything, and he is a resource or an intro for me. He also has recently made the move that I don't have the guts to do: shave his head to combat MPB. More relevantly, he is primed to make some power moves in wind energy in Nebraska. When he executes it, we shall call it the Pogge. So you can see that I added a little bit of hyperbole and a little bit of color beyond just your typical, hey, Mike, you should meet Phil. Phil, you should meet Mike.
Yeah, no, and I appreciated the opportunity because I do get those other emails. In my line of work, I'm in a people business. Mm-hmm. I get those emails all the time. They're pretty standard.
And I would say that in your business too, it is so relationship driven that there is a demand for you to basically engage in all of them. Whereas I'd say, sometimes in the software world, let's just stick with the software world. There is so much networking that happens. Sometimes it can just be exhausting. And if there isn't a compelling reason to reply, sometimes they just go by the wayside.
Yeah, I get a certain amount of sales marketing emails. I mean, whether it's financial planning or, that's
Right.
the one that comes to mind, or probably some other things too. But where it's sort of a built-in expectation, even though it's clearly a personal email, it's not like I would have gotten
Right.
this from some spam list or like a pure spam list.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll get one that says, hey, Mike, I was looking online and I discovered Weber Johnson Public Affairs. Hey, how's your insurance situation? This is from a guy I don't know.
Yeah,
I think there's a built-in expectation that I don't have to reply to that.
definitely. And he probably even feels it too.
Exactly.
The sender is like,
He's working numbers.
I'm spraying and praying.
Yeah, if there's a 10% conversion rate on replies, then he's probably having a good year.
And he wants to hit 1,000 a week.
Yeah.
And hope that he gets 100 replies.
It is
off
very
that.
different in my line of work. If I send an email, it's almost always a personal email, and if it's not responded to within a couple days,
Yeah.
No, you're not. That sounded more accusational than I intended it to do.
As did the glare.
Yeah, you didn't have to tell the listeners about that, Lou.
It's an audible medium. We've talked about it. I did need to tell the listener.
Well, it's an audible medium, which means that some things can stay between us.
Okay, well,
at any rate, I did not glare at Lou. It was more of a wink.
It was a little flirtatious.
Yeah.
I'll accept it.
Sure.
So anyway,
Pogge.
the email went on to say, Phil, meet Mike Franklin. And I went on to spell out your last name phonetically as Franklin, so he wasn't confused. It has been said about Mike Franklin that he drove me to drinking, and at times I've driven him to quit. But to be fair, I said both of those things, and neither are true. Which kind of reminds me of the podcast. I've known him since we were 9 years old, and he thought I was a bully. Fast friends we were, which we've talked about on the show. More recently, however, he was an energy lobbyist and working at the Minnesota Chamber. Today, he's a lobbyist at a grassroots firm, Weber Johnson, and I occasionally assist on the Facebook side of that initiative. I'd make a joke, but as you both know, I don't joke about Facebook.
No.
And then I left the email as, anyway, you guys should know each other, and I'll let you take it from here. But if you ever have beers without me, I will hold it against you.
And we haven't to this day, which is the lesson for this episode. If you get an introductory email, make sure you have beers with Lou.
Or if you write an introductory email, don't give both parties an out at the end of it to never meet each other.
Oh, that's true. That's a really good one.
But the point of that I wanted to make is I'm on a mission here to end the boring introductory intro emails. And I could really compel you to take, because writing a normal intro email will take, a minute or two. Just putting a little bit of color in each of the person's descriptions for the other party can go a long way for understanding the context, the reason, and, probably just a little bit more fun in somebody's inbox that they, are probably tired of that 17th insurance statement email and sale from that other insurance salesman that keeps bugging them over and over on that automated email that means nothing to them.
I was just thinking about where this actually factored into my life in the last couple of weeks, in a way. And the other thing that jumped out at me was the subject line, and I don't know what you put in the subject line there, but if you just do, and I am so guilty of this. So this is not a thing where I practice what I preach, although now I have to think about it because I do a podcast. But so I got one the other day from a friend, a guy that I actually, who was a financial planner who, we became friends, and, he started with "Good men, great introductions" was the subject line. And
that is really good.
yeah, and he did a very much the same thing. Joe dash Mike Franklin is a partner at Weber Johnson. He loves dad jokes, puns, and memes. A father of 4, humble, hungry, and smart. I get hungry right. And then he goes on. Mike, Joe Kessler is the best storyteller I know. His ability to take a dry subject and turn it into an emotional, heartfelt story is absolutely amazing. So at this point, I got this email at 3:57 p.m. on a Monday, and I really want to meet this guy, Joe Kessler, because now I know that I'm going to get a good story out of the deal.
And I can't help but wonder if he's already listened to this show.
Well, if he hasn't, somebody call Joe Kessler and tell him to turn the station because we're talking about him right now.
And he added a great little detail, or you made an observation about the detail in that the subject line is really putting your best foot forward. And I'll admit that I don't put nearly enough time into that subject line.
Because how many emails do you get where it's and now I've already stopped reading.
Recolon.
Oh, hey, new sponsor.
Recolon.
Well, it's available in lozenge form, I assume.
So anyway, look for that in your inbox.
As we were discussing this email introductory, it just occurred to me that and Mick is another guy, this friend of mine, who is very good at this, and who also his sort of milieu, if you will, is he does like to make introductions, and he considers it part of his business development. He's very good at it, about people from totally different walks of life, and he'll just put the three of us together and see what happens, and he may not go anywhere.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And, it really speaks volumes to both parties that you're introducing them, that you know them well enough that the introduction is worthwhile.
Yeah. So it does increase your currency, because now even if nothing else comes from this, no business relationship or personal relationship or whatever, I think more highly of Mick because he thought enough of me to say, like, hey, you would really like my friend Joe.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let this be one of my remaining gauntlets that I'm throwing down, that you need to get out there and put just a tiny bit more effort into that introductory email. I keep saying introductory. What I mean is introduction email.
Is the other thing not true? I mean, it's accurate, right? It's an introductory email. You're introducing.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Yeah. Don't be so hard on yourself, Lou.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't had a good seat on the therapeutic couch of love in a while.
WWPPD. What would Phil Pogge do?
Well, there's one way to find out, and it's that I'm going to introduce him to everybody who listens to this podcast.
You'll have to check www.hotlou.com/Luxicon for the correct pronunciation.
Yeah. Or we'll add it to the difficult to spell hotlou.com URLs and go hotlou.com/Pogge.
It's all in there.
Best of luck spelling that out. And thanks everybody for listening to this tactic and letting me throw down that gauntlet about sending better introductory emails. I am your host, Hot Lou.
And I am the proprietor of Dad Jokes Daily, Mike Franklin.
We'll talk to you next Lou's Day.